Well, it's a rainy day today from our porch, and I just wanted to touch base with my friends and family today. I set a goal personally to try and do a little inspirational message every day during this COVID-19 lockdown, and I hope it's encouraging some of you. As I mentioned yesterday, I don't want to in any way minimize um, what's going on right now, the threat of it. But at the same time, I was encouraged this morning thinking about a message I just heard from old Charles Stanley. It's in his book of many principles that he wrote about, that it's vitally important right now for us to look at whatever we're going through an awareness of God's presence. I guess that's what I'll title today's focus. I mentioned yesterday that God mentions over 104 times in the Old Testament that I am with you. And he does it in various ways all the way through from, Enoch walking with the Lord, he was with him. You've got Noah, there's so many examples. Abraham, of course. David shows how he is with the Lord. And one of my favorite verses is in Exodus where Moses says, if your presence doesn't go with me, Lord, I'm not going to leave this place. So it was vitally important for these old saints to recognize God's presence, and I think it's equally important for us today. I wanted to look at a popular psalm first, and that is one everybody should be aware of, and that's the 23rd Psalm, and it reads in the NIV, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures, and leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul." How many need to have their soul restored today? It says, "He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. You are with me." That's the point I wanted to draw out. You are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And again, I'm not going to minimize the crisis we're going through and all that it implies, but at the same time, it's vitally important we remember his presence is with us. And besides that psalm, there's probably one of the greatest promises this side of heaven. If you get a chance today, I really encourage you to go to the book of Ephesians, or as the old man at Brown City, Amish man, once told me, it's called Ephesians. And that was his favorite life book. And this is the prayer that Paul then goes to his knees and prays for the church. He says, "For this reason I kneel before the Father, from whom his whole family in heaven and earth derives its name. And I pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in the inner being." I'm going to skip down a little bit as he's getting very deep about Christ dwelling in our hearts, being rooted and grounded in love. But this promise right here is just an amazing promise that we can have this side of heaven. He says that you may grasp how wide, how long, and how deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of the fullness of God. Be filled to the measure of the fullness of God. If you go back into the Old Testament before anyone really knew about the person of Christ, there were still those who walked by faith. And any Jewish person that was from the time they were little in the nursery school would listen to the teachers say, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord." And Jesus is whom, whether they knew it or not at the time, is who they were speaking of. That when the time was right, when the fullness of time was perfect, he would walk onto the stage and into our lives. And then he could go on to say things like, "Greater things will you do," even as he departed from the earth. He sent his Spirit, and he says now we will have the ability to do greater things. And we see it in the person of Paul and so many other evangelists. Certainly by this social media, we can reach more people. They say Jesus probably didn't travel more than 80 miles from his original hometown, just the Palestine area. But there's a few points I just want to make before we leave our time together today and enjoy the rain. The rain is needed, and it just makes us to sit in and be reflective, I think. I love the sound of the rain. is just that we might look at some evidences in our life that we do have God's continual presence with us. We can be assured because of his presence that he's going to guide us. He's available, as I said yesterday, as your next breath. And some say, well, I don't give much thought to asking God's guidance. I think I can handle things pretty well on my own. Do you believe that he's earnestly concerned about every little detail of your life? He really is. I believe we should continuously seek him because he's available. And in view of his presence, have an awareness that he's a constant companion. No matter what it is you're going through, he's walking with you. Some people say, well, I'm alone right now, or I've been abandoned. God is walking with you. He's walking with you through whatever it is that you're challenged with today. An awareness of God should also create a hunger within us. It should create a desire to want to know him more. It should ignite us when we look to his word and see his promises to say, wow, you're speaking to me in real time right now from your promises. Are we asking God for wisdom these days? I think I mentioned it yesterday. Are we coming before him in the mornings, seeking him early, and asking, what is it you would have me to do today? What is it, God, that you want to teach me today? And are we believing that his presence is with us? All of those passages I read speak to his presence, and I just want you to be encouraged today that these are promises of God that you can take to the bank. He's with you no matter what we're going through, and I'm praying that some don't get sick during this time, that we can stay under the protection of his wing at Psalm 91, under the shadow of the Almighty, that we can dwell and not fear, but meditate on his presence today. That's what I want to leave you with today. And I thank you for your time and for being patient with me perhaps today, as I just wanted to share from my heart. I love you, and I'm praying for everyone. And don't forget, the name of the YouTube, I guess now, is Exalt God. Have a blessed day.